Hello and welcome to Web Relates. Today we're looking at the AskReddit subreddit, where Yovila has asked, what long-held scientific assertions were refuted only within the last 10 years? DrebLab says a draining lymphatic system of the brain was discovered in just 2016. Before that, it was thought that there was no lymphatic system in the brain. Wild that we are still discovering major systems of human anatomy this recently. Spiderweb says keeping peanuts away from infants for a couple years of age to prevent allergies. Turns out, doing this is the reason there are so many peanut allergies now. They changed the rule about 7 years ago. Bard, the GM, replies to that. They figure this out by looking at Israeli children, among others, who traditionally eat a peanut paste as children. They had much lower rates of peanut allergies compared to countries where we restrict peanut access to prevent allergies. Then they came out and said, yep, we were doing this wrong. It's the other way around, guys. Waifu Raya says, the appendix is a useless organ. For years it was thought to be a vestigial structure with no function. The research in the past decade has shown that it plays a role in our immune system and maintaining gut bacteria. Entertainment Odd says, like 11,000 papers have been retracted in the last 2 years for fraud, and it's the tip of the iceberg. I believe a Nobel laureate had their cancer research retracted. Steam Whale has replied, saying, my favorite science blogger, Derek Lowe, has been talking about this a lot. There's people building careers now and studying and busting scientific fraud. Predatory journals and the publish or perish mindset in academia are huge parts of the problem. There's also the issue that repeating others' work to verify it, which is supposed to be a key part of the scientific process, isn't very attractive. You want to be doing your own unique research, or easy to get funded. If I remember correctly, there was a recent controversy on an old paper on amyloid beta plaques in Alzheimer's research. There were suspicions of fake results. I don't know if that actually got resolved, although there were a lot of other papers that still looked at other amyloid beta plaques, not necessarily that one, which did seem more credible. But yes, going back to what Steam Whale said, replication is very important, because the standard statistical threshold is set at around 5% of being incorrect, although they do try and make this harder and harder in some bigger studies. So we need replication to make sure that our results are correct. Baby J Bay says, for a long time it was believed that the brain stops producing new neurons after childhood, but studies within the last decade have shown that neurogenesis, the creation of new neurons, can occur in adults, particularly in the hippocampus. ChatGPT 420 says, this one was 2012, but close enough. The University of Michigan came out with a study about how sweat glands impact the healing of wounds like scrapes, burns, etc. It was believed for a long time that new skin cells were created from the edge of the wound using the undamaged ones, but they found that sweat glands help secrete the new skin cells, and that they are coming up from the wound itself. It's why your hands might get really clammy if you've just scraped them up. Surf Kaboom says, boar are becoming more radioactive in the Chernobyl area due to their digging and foraging. The deer are becoming less radioactive due to their eating at or above surface. The boar are digging down far enough to hit isotopes from Russian nuclear weapons testing. In a reply, Draken has clarified, I heard that it's not the digging, it's what they're eating, mycelium and truffles, vast networks of fungus. In fact, after some testing, the boar's prior source of radiation was actually nuclear testing in the 50s and 60s that had been absorbed by the fungus. They are only recently showing more of the radiation signatures of Chernobyl as the fungus brings it closer to the surface. Throwaway says, the exact timeline is up for debate, but the long-held Bering Strait land bridge theory for the original peopling of the Americas has been for the most part completely accepted as incorrect by the Archaeological Society at large, starting around 2015-ish. Findings predating the culture theorized to be associated with the Bering Strait land bridge migration timeframe, termed the Clovis culture, have been continuously discovered since the 50s, but were overall rejected by academics for the longest time. Improvement of carbon dating techniques in 2000 to 2010s, and further work at a number of important sites in North and South America, have led to a body of evidence that is pretty much undeniable. The new theory is that the original peopling of the Americas happened before the Bering Strait land bridge was accessible. These people traveled likely by small boat and hugged the Pacific coastline, working steadily all the way down to current-day Chile. The most comprehensive site supporting this is Monteverde in Chile, which features clear remains of a settlement that predates the Clovis culture by approximately 1,000 years, and features remains of 34 plus types of edible seaweed that were found a great distance from the site itself, supporting the idea of migratory marine subsistence culture. The revised idea is that this first wave settled coastlines and whatever part of the continent were habitable, or not still frozen over, and after the land bridge became more available, a second and possibly third wave of migration occurred that had limited admixture with the modern-day NA peoples. Assuming they are the descendants of the first wave, or that the descendants of the first wave didn't just die off. There's a lot of unknown because of the limited number of human remains found dating back that far, and the fact that the bulk of likely site locations are now underwater. But as analysis methods continue to evolve, I'm sure there will be more discoveries made in the future. Beneficial Trash says, "You have eyelashes. Living in your eyelash pores are mites. It was believed for the longest time that these mites did not have anuses and did not defecate. They would simply grow and grow until they filled with too much poop and simply popped. In the last 10 years, it has been discovered that no, these mites do in fact have anuses. This is important work." Lanius Cruiser says, "Turns out our connective tissue isn't just a bunch of thick collagen holding our organs in place. It's a bunch of interconnected sacs of fluid dubbed the interstitium. Yeah, basically, in order to see our organs on a microscopic level, we would cut them open into thin slices, use chemicals to help fix the tissues together, basically preserving it, and then place these slices in between slides of glass. This process caused the fluid to drain out of these sacs and collapse, so the reason we never saw them before is that we have been accidentally destroying them every time we tried to check." Erotic Pubic Hair says, "The monoamine theory of depression, the theory that imbalances in things like dopamine, serotonin, GABA, etc., as the primary cause of depression. The prevailing theory now, I believe, is more related to how large amounts of stress physically damage certain areas of the brain. This can cause individuals who are vulnerable or have predisposition to develop depression or other mental disorders." Dak Panther says, "This is more around 10 to 15 years ago, but paleoanthropological work and comparative anatomists found data that suggest humans never had a knuckle-walking ancestor. It seems that the other great apes developed their mechanism for knuckle-walking independently from each other, and we actually began developing our bipedalism early on from an arboreal ape-like ancestor that didn't yet have any specialized ground travel methods. I'd imagine it somewhat resembled a gibbon's shamble." Meta Rinker says, "The crisis in cosmology is less than 10 years old. Basically, we had a theory about how the universe formed and how old galaxies were from observations from Hubble and other telescopes. When the James Webb Space Telescope came online, it could look way further, and it found galaxies that shouldn't exist. Then it found more, and more, and more. Basically, our two ways of dating galaxies no longer agree with each other, and that disagreement keeps getting larger and larger, and no one knows who is right, or more likely, both are wrong." And Tutor Bin says, "Water evaporation only being caused by heat. With the surprisingly recent confirmation of the photomolecular effect, we now know light can make water evaporate faster than with heat alone. This has massive implications for our understanding of cloud formation and other weather patterns, and could lead to engineering low-energy drying and desalination solutions." Alright, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. As always, be careful with what you read on the internet. So if any of these topics interested you, I encourage you to go and look them up yourself and see what you find. And until then, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the content, like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers!